Hey, it's been a while. Let's kind of just quickly go over boredom. I think that's an interesting topic, right? Not many people want to talk about being bored. I guess for me, I'm just going to say, being bored is probably an incredibly good spiritual practice. I feel like it really gets under the surface of a lot of surface level things. Like, for one, being bored really gets you in touch with your senses. Part of boredom is there's nothing interesting, but like you can't really turn off your senses, can you? You can't like turn off your sight, sound, smell, touch, any of that. We're like so caught up in our heads that we only pay attention to our senses when it's something big, like when it's incredibly hot or incredibly cold, when it's a really big amount, it catches our attention. Otherwise, we're constantly thinking about something. Our mind is always trying to find something stimulating. But when you're bored, there's nothing mentally stimulating. So the best part about boredom is it gets you way more sensitive to the little stuff. It gets you from just paying attention to your senses when they're big, when you don't need like a giant flame to catch your attention, and it can just be, a small fire or just a warm room or warm water. Really just get it boredom. If you're not afraid of being bored, it gets you to all just the really surface level sensations. I feel like most people aren't really in touch with the surface level sensations and just the small little touches. Even the part where you can just feel how your breath feels every time you breathe or when you take a step. All the small things and how they feel like instead of all the big things. And obviously, if someone punched you, that would hurt. That's a pretty big thing, but gentle touch, all the small gentle stuff. That's what the good thing about boredom is. If you get comfortable with boredom and your mind doesn't need stimulation, you get comfortable with all the small sensations. And you can just enjoy just the really surface part of just being alive where you don't really need much because what you feel is just more than enough. It doesn't mean you don't have practical things to take care of. Those things can be pretty big, but like if you're sitting right now, do you even know what your butt feels like if you're sitting? Like you're sitting, but what does it feel like to sit? Because you got to be a little bored to really get in touch with these really minute sensations. And it goes everywhere. I know for me, especially recently, I've been driving without music. I always drive with music, but lately I've been turning it off and I never realized how bumpy the steering wheel was, especially while driving, which is weird to say. But I wasn't stimulated by the music, so my sense of touch was greatly heightened and something really nice about driving without music. And you can just, almost like you can feel the texture of the ground as you drive. I never really noticed the small vibrations of the car until now. It's like that with everything. If you're not afraid to be bored and get in touch and let your body become extra sensitive. Because when your mind's occupied, you're not sensitive to touch and things like that. Mental activity makes you less sensitive. So if you let yourself be bored enough to connect with your senses, things really start to come alive because you're not afraid of all the small textures. Honestly, I don't really have much more to add, and I think brevity is an important thing, so I think keeping it short and sweet and simple is great. So thanks for listening. Bye. All right, so I'm kind of back really quickly, but something did just come to mind with boredom, but I think one of the scary things about boredom is that it really gets you in touch with all your feelings, especially the small ones. Ones you'd rather brush over, the really, really intimate feelings. They may not be big. It's almost like the difference between like having this really big crush versus a bit more, you have really gentle, very loving feelings, but it's not like explosive or anything. The big crush like feelings are a lot more obvious and center stage, but the surface level ones, like maybe you love your pet or something, or just a family member, or just someone you care about. The feelings may not be big, but you know you care greatly. And part of boredom is you really get in touch with those types of feelings, the really small ones, the ones that aren't screaming for your attention. But on the downside is, I think the scary part is that also gets you in touch with the ones that you're afraid of, especially if you've experienced trauma or things that are painful. Because when you're sensitive to one thing, you become sensitive to everything. So one scary drawback is boredom probably would get you in touch with things that you might need someone's help to process with. So if you can't be bored, don't blame yourself at all. But yeah, boredom's pretty great if you're not afraid to just be really intimate with all the small things. So make some time to be bored. Thanks for listening.